A billionaire caught a homeless boy dancing for his paralyzed daughter. A barefoot boy starving slipped through the fence of a mansion and saw the girl sitting silent. Her face clouded. Then he did the unthinkable. He danced. Not for money, not for food, only to make her smile. In Houston, Texas, in the oak-shaded enclave of River Oaks, the Lawson Mansion home of Richard Lawson, a white billionaire nicknamed the Golden Hand, was eerily quiet. He had built his fortune in oil real estate logistics. Every deal he signed seemed to seed gold across the city map. But behind brick walls and glass windows was a failure no amount of money could fix silence. Amanda, his 8-year-old daughter White, had been paralyzed after the crash that also took Elizabeth, his wife, her mother. Once, Amanda's laughter had run the halls like wind chimes. Now, sunlight spilled across the marble floor without touching the child's eyes. Richard had flown her to Mayo Clinic, Boston, Los Angeles. Robotics, advanced therapies, regimens that looked impressive on charity reports, but every return flight was a loop of disappointment. Amanda stared out through the great window, her hand resting on a thin blanket, her world reduced to a chair and a sheet of glass. One heavy Houston afternoon, sweat darkened the oak leaves, and Amanda's nanny wheeled her into the garden. Her gaze locked on the black iron gate. Something stirred under the hedge by the side path. A skinny black boy slipped through where the gardener had left a gap. His shirt was torn at the shoulder shorts, sliding off a too small waist, hair, wild feet caked with dust. His knees bore a map of half-healed scrapes. He looked up, and Amanda's eyes met his. No music, no permission. He began to dance, not the polished moves scored on TV. He staggered in slow motion like swimming in syrup, a half moonwalk. Elbows too loose, ankles buckling, then snapping back at the last instant. Lips puckered, eyes wide, then suddenly frozen, stone-faced. He swayed like a broken tripod, froze mannequin, still, then jolted alive again. Amanda blinked. A giggle slipped out trembling like a bird's nest in the wind. The boy's eyes lit up. He pushed harder robot arms, a dramatic knee collapse, then a sweeping boo, so serious it became ridiculous. Amanda clapped. Then she laughed, the sound ricocheting off brick and glass like the house had waited months to echo it back. From the balcony, Richard froze. He hadn't heard that sound in months. Father's instinct surged, who, how. He leaned forward, ready to bark for security, but the scene below rooted him still. Amanda's cheeks flushed pink. Her back, usually hunched, sat straighter. Her hands tapped her blanket in rhythm to music only she heard. The boy didn't know it, but something enormous had shifted. Not only in Amanda, in the house itself. The next day he returned. Same way through the hedge, quick, quiet, hopeful. This time, Amanda was already waiting at the gate, her hands 2 little drumsticks. "Ready?" he asked, lifting his palm like a circus host. Before he could start, Richard stepped out from the shadows. The boy froze, chin tilted up in the posture of someone used to a shout, followed by a shove. Amanda spoke first. "Quick, Daddy, please. Don't send him away." Richard looked closer. Torn shirt, loose shorts, bare, dusty feet, scars, and eyes steady. Not defiant, not pleading, just steady. "Your name?" Richard asked. "Cole," the boy said. "How did you get in?" Cole swallowed. "Yesterday." I saw her sad. I thought, if I danced, maybe she'd laugh. "I didn't come to take anything, sir. I just wanted to give something. Then I'd go." The short words fell like rain on dry ground. "Where do you stay?" Richard's voice softened. "Anywhere," Cole answered. "Under I-10, sometimes bus station other times. I dance at intersections. Some people roll down the window, drop a couple bucks, some don't. If I sit still, hunger wins. If I move, it doesn't." Amanda's eyes brimmed. Richard caught a flicker. Her right toe twitched a rare spark of movement. He exhaled. Today, you stay, outside where I can see. No trouble. Understood? Cole nodded. Yes, sir. Then he turned to Amanda. Showtime. She clapped sharp as a snare. 1 day became 3. 3 became a week. Richard told security. Let him in at 4, out at 6. Feed him before he leaves. Every afternoon, Cole brought something new running in slow motion like the slowest man alive. Arguing with himself as bus driver and ticket checker. Wearing a paper cup as a crown, and bowing like he'd just won Super Bowl MVP. Pretending to be stuck at a red light, then jolting forward like an engine. It wasn't just laughter. Tiny victories began to pile up. Amanda's strength grew more obvious by the day. From timid claps, she began drumming along to Cole's glitchy robot. Some days she even directed again. Not like that like yesterday. The wheels of her chair traced small circles as Cole spun across the grass. At night, her bedroom no longer felt like a sealed box. Daddy, did you see him do the police siren bit, Daddy, today? I felt something in my toes. Daddy, will he come back tomorrow? At her routine checkup, the rehab doctor raised his brows in surprise. Her engagement has skyrocketed. Motivation like this can light up motor pathways. We don't always have neat explanations, just keep it going. One sultry Houston afternoon, a neighbor's radio leaked a Motown classic, the heat slowing everything down. Cole was mid-slow-mo through Honey when Amanda dropped her blanket. Wait, let me try this. She placed both hands on the armrests. Her face tightened, not with pain but with resolve. For a moment, nothing. Then shoulders, chest, hips lifting, 1 inch, 2 inches. Her body trembled like a fledgling bird cupped in a palm. 1, Cole whispered, eyes wide. 2. Richard stepped closer, counting. 3. Amanda exhaled, then sat back down, laughing, her eyes glistening. Silence fell over the garden. But not the heavy silence that had suffocated the house for months. It was sacred silence, the kind that follows a prayer answered in a way no one expected. You did it, Cole shouted, spinning 3 times before dropping to his knees beside her. Champion Richard knelt on the other side, his hand trembling. You're brave. I'm proud of you. Amanda clasped both their hands. I'm not afraid anymore. When he dances, I feel like I can move. They didn't post a clip. They didn't call the press, they just continued. More laughter, more practice, small movements compounding like interest, adding up to something big. One Saturday, Richard sat Cole down, no music, no skits. Tell me about yourself. Few people had ever asked him that. Maybe no one in years. Cole spoke in clipped phrases, mother gone before her face was clear in memory. Father walked out. Women at the market fed him for a while, then not anymore. Nights under I-10 or against locked shop doors. A handful of boys who also learned how to shorten the dark. Why do you dance? Richard asked. Cole smiled shyly. When you're hungry, your body feels heavy. Sit still. Hunger wins. Move it doesn't. People laugh. Sometimes they give you change, sometimes not. But at least for a minute, I'm not invisible. Richard had eaten at every gala table, shaken every powerful hand, yet this was the truest sentence he'd heard all year. He looked at his daughter, his white daughter, her eyes shining right there and then at the skinny black boy in front of him. The walls of class-race reputation all seemed to fall back before the word human. Listen to me, Richard said softly. Here you are not invisible. You're part of this house. Amanda wheeled closer, holding Cole's hand as if planting a sign this place is taken. That night, Richard wandered the cold stone halls like a man who had lost a battle only to discover it was the greatest victory. He thought of pride of image. At dawn, he finally admitted to himself in a whisper, maybe money isn't the highest power. Maybe kindness is. The 4 to 6 ritual became a warm discipline, guards opening the gate on the dot. Dinner with Cole's name on the table, the nanny trimming her hours so Cole could push Amanda around the yard, Richard cutting 2 unnecessary meetings. The back garden turned into both stage and therapy room, where laughter itself became the metronome teaching nerves their old lessons again. But the next knot wasn't only here, it lay out there in the city beyond. A hot, windy day. Cole was mid-robot, his wrists jerking like worn gears, when Amanda suddenly blurted, "I want to stand." Richard froze for a second. His father's instinct screamed, "Don't." But then he let his shoulders drop. "I'm right here." He didn't touch, only stood close. Amanda pressed her hands down, knees trembling, but finding balance, her feet pressing into the ground. She stood not tall, not long, but she stood. 3 seconds, then sat back. No tears, only laughter. The news not video just whispers slipped through River Oaks like warmth between fingers. The Lawson girl stood for a few seconds. That evening, Richard found Cole sitting on the back steps, knees pulled tight as if trying to shrink smaller. "You shouldn't sit out here alone," Cole murmured. "I'm used to it." Richard shook his head. "No more used to it. This is your home now, but we'll do it. Right, contact Child Services, apply for temporary guardianship. Get you in school 3 meals a day." Cole's breath caught. "Thank you, sir." Richard turned, fully eyes shining. "You gave my daughter something money and doctors couldn't hope. And those who give hope aren't just worth knowing, they're worth loving." Monday morning, Richard's lawyer contacted Child Services. The temporary guardian file was submitted. A social worker came for an interview. The Lawsons' rich White River Oaks elite were applying to care for a black teenager from under the freeway. In the glass room, the divide of race and privilege lay stark like mortar lines between bricks, but the interview closed with a single note. Safe, bonded, purpose-driven. Before leaving, the social worker crouched to Cole's eye level. "You have the right to speak. Here your voice matters." Cole glanced at Amanda. She gave a small nod. Then came the businessmen and drinking buddies. At a gala, one partner pulled Richard aside. "This could cost you. A street kid. What if he steals? If the press runs wild, think of your image." Richard replied, calm to the bone. "The only image I need is my daughter laughing and standing." Tension hadn't cooled when a neighbor called the non-emergency line alarmed at a stranger pushing Amanda's chair around the block. Patrol arrived. Richard stepped out, not sharp, not defensive. "This boy is my guest. This is my daughter." The young officer looked at Amanda. She lifted her head and smiled. "This is my friend." The officer tipped his cap. "Have a good day, sir." The neighbor closed the curtain. River Oaks learned a small lesson about seeing and being seen. The 4 to 6 ritual went on. Cole added Skit's broken traffic light, red, yellow, green across his face. Metro ticket inspector a sharp whistle. Super Bowl MVP a paper cup crown. Amanda pushed her walker between parallel bars. Cole at her side, hands open, not touching just there. Each night, the dinner table had an extra fork. Richard adjusted Cole's handshake. Look in the eyes, not limp, not stiff. He taught him to crack an egg without shells. Amanda burst out laughing when the first shell slipped into the bowl. By the next week, Amanda walked 5 steps between the bars. The universe slowed to hear each squeak like off-key strings that were still beautiful. Somewhere in Houston, men spoke of oil prices. Contracts passed through email. In this garden, a contract between joy and neuroplasticity was signed in sweat and children's laughter. Outside the gate, the city buzzed. Headlines read, "Houston. Billionaire brings street. Kid home." Some sneered reckless sentiment. Others called it courage. Amanda, 8 years old. Her words, sharp as a little blade, answered anyone who asked, "Cole is my friend. If you don't like Cole, you don't love me." The whole city heard it, though no one recorded it. One evening, as the sun spilled honey over Buffalo Bayou, Richard watched his daughter set one foot, then the other. Cole walked beside her, hands open like a shield against the wind, their laughter braided together, rising like a kind of wealth no wire transfer could ever hold. I thought I had everything, Richard whispered mostly to himself. Turns out I had nothing until I met this boy. A board meeting. Big screen charts, EBIT project pipeline. At the end, a member turned to Richard. PR is heating up. Do you have a backup plan? Richard gave a thin smile. I do. At my house there's dinner for 3 and laughter. The man didn't understand or didn't want to. What surprised everyone was the silence of the shareholders, not out of kindness, but because they saw Richard as different, now a man no longer parasitic on appearances. In River Oaks, the rumor changed tone. That black kid who dances, he helped the girl take a few steps. The next line whispered, maybe kindness is richer than money. A neighbor's family even asked through the nannies, can Cole teach my kid that rhythm game? Mine's lazy with physical therapy. A door cracked open. At dinner, Amanda shared a new word from school agency, the power to choose for yourself. I have agency when I pick the beat right? Cole nodded, a smile glowing like streetlights after rain. Richard realized he was teaching less and learning more, learning how to stay close without stealing his daughter's agency. One day, Cole was late, trapped in I-10 traffic. Amanda grew restless. Richard sat on the porch listening to crickets in the shrubs like an old song. Cole rushed in, breathless. Sorry, sir. Richard handed him a glass of water. You're home now. At home, no need for sir. Just call me Richard like when we count beats. Cole blushed, grinned. Yes, okay. Amanda cut in. Daddy, I like sir. Sounds like the Crown. They all laughed. Laughter built the pillars of home, more solid than the mansion ever could. On a weekend morning, child services staff brought updated papers, temporary guardianship approved. The school has admitted Cole. Cole hugged a stack of new notebooks, breathing in the paper like someone about to learn magic. Richard took him to a bookstore. The cashier glanced at worn shoes, faded shirt, then at the steady eyes. She smiled, keyed in a student discount. 2 men, one old and white, one young, and black pushed the door open, the bell ringing like an overture. In the garden, therapy got harder, from parallel bars to pediatric walker, then 5 to 7 steps with spotting. Some days, Amanda was tired, cranky, ready to quit. Cole didn't perform her fatigue. He sat on the grass, breathing in sync. If we sit, the tired wins. If we move, Amanda smiled, finishing, then it doesn't. 2 friends, 2 colors, 1 code. At the start of the month, an op-ed ran charity or performative with a blurry photo of Cole from afar. Richard didn't respond. Amanda did by walking 10 steps. The nanny filmed secretly but didn't post. That night, they watched it together on the TV. The 3 of them packed close like it was Super Bowl Sunday, except the only team they were cheering for was themselves. One night, Houston sprinkled rain. The smell of earth rose under the oaks. Richard told Cole about Elizabeth, how she loved Aretha Franklin, how she taught Amanda to count beats with a spoon on a glass. Cole told him about the boys under the bridge. One dreamed of becoming a mechanic. Another wanted to drive trucks across states. If you ever want to go back and find them, I'll go with you, Richard said. Cole was silent, then nodded slowly. A promise with legs, not just words to hold space. A late ray of sun streaked across the tiled floor. Amanda stood between the bars, sweat on her brow, speaking as if to herself, I'm not scared anymore. The words weren't meant for a camera. They were meant for the 2 hearts standing beside her. The story, though, the Lawsons never went to the press, slipped quietly through the city. The Lawson girl took a few steps. There's a black boy named Cole helping her train, with laughter. The cruel articles faded from view. Emails arrived instead, lighter in tone, about a child in Katie afraid of the rehab room, a mother in Third Ward struggling because her son rejected traditional therapy. Richard answered not with words, but with action. He set up a small fund, Joy in Motion, to sponsor therapy sessions with music, games, and laughter. He asked Amanda's doctor to help design the curriculum. He did no flashy launch. Cole started school. In his first English assignment, he wrote, "I used to be invisible. Now I am seen." The teacher underlined "am" and left a note. "Keep going. Your voice matters." After class, Richard leaned against the car, handing him a bag with PB&J and an apple. "You've got homework." Cole grinned. "So do you. What's that smile more?" Richard laughed the laugh of someone who had just learned a new word and used it right. In the garden, Amanda graduated from walker to cane for a few minutes each day. Some days she toppled into the grass, forehead smudged with dirt. She laughed first, then brushed herself off. Cole offered his hand but never pulled, just left it there. Amanda pushed herself up, touching his hand like marking a milestone. At dinner, Amanda teased Daddy, "You're smiling too much. You'll lose your image." Richard replied, "I'm changing my image from golden hand to Walker escort." The table erupted. That warm noise was a kind of wealth no financial report could list. One golden weekend evening, Buffalo Bayou breathing earth and grass, Amanda placed one foot, then another, Cole's open hand beside her, and turned back to throw her arms around him. Richard stood a few steps away, not intruding, only watching. He heard himself whisper, not for anyone else, "I thought I had everything. Turns out, before this boy, I was empty." Child Services scheduled a midterm check evaluating the home. The worker came in, watched them at the dinner table. The file note grew by 3 words, "Home not mansion." Amanda insisted on teaching the social worker the clap rhythm with a spoon and glass, Elizabeth's legacy. Everyone laughed when the glass chimed off key. That night, Richard opened his laptop and wrote to the board, "I'll fund a pilot branch of rhythm and play therapy. Not for PR, just for more laughter." He closed the lid, turned off the lights, and walked the stone halls that once felt like a museum, now warm like a workshop, where people built small things meant to last. At the edge of the garden, the iron gate swayed in the wind. Richard looked at it, remembering it had once stood for security, for exclusion, for inside and outside. Now it was a wing. When kindness opened the gate, the house itself opened. The story needed no fireworks. It was a signpost that sometimes the medicine is a person, the therapy is joy, and the way home runs through an unlikely friendship. A black boy who had been invisible, and a white girl learning to laugh again. A white father once obsessed with money, relearning the first lesson of life, to see and be seen. And if anyone asked what wealth was, they would point to something simple, a Houston afternoon, faint Motown on the breeze, a little girl with a cane, a boy with open hands, and a father standing still, letting love do its work. There, laughter is currency, hope is interest, and home is the place where no one is invisible. From a gap in a hedge to the doorway of a family, Cole brought what money could never buy: hope. Amanda relearned how to stand. Richard relearned how to be a father, and the house learned how to see and be seen. Sometimes wealth is only an open hand and a returned smile. Which moment touched you most in Amanda and Cole's journey, and where are you watching from? If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs strength and subscribe so you won't miss the next story.